Hey everyone, welcome back to Strictly Casual. Here's our non-spoiler review. We're going to go ahead and get into plot as well as initial thoughts. Again, this will be no spoilers. So without further ado, James, you want to take us away?
All right, so what we have in The Batman is Robert Pattinson, not as the brawler bat, but the detective bat.
Ooh, baby.
And that might be my favorite part of this entire movie. This is how I feel. If this is the beginning of a next chapter of Batman, I am nothing but excited for the direction it's going.
There we go.
Oh,
There we
baby.
go.
It's dark, it's gritty, it's filled with mystery. You never know what's going to happen next. There's twists and turns that I never even thought about. Some of the, like this is one of those movies that you're the whole time. It's not explicitly a who done it because you kind of know who done it,
Mhm.
but like it goes deeper than that.
It
And the
goes
whole
into that,
time
yeah.
in my mind,
Mhm.
I'm figuring out who done it.
And to add on to that, it's not only just like a roller coaster ride of like you're on this mission with Batman basically to figure this out,
Mhm.
but there's some meat. There's some like emotional meat to this movie that I would say that a lot of other superhero films these days just don't have. Just straight up don't
Mhm.
have. I don't
Mhm.
want to spoil the arc that Batman has in this, but Robert Pattinson's Batman does have an emotional arc in
Mhm.
this movie, and that is
Absolutely.
so important to me. And it really landed. It really, really did land for
Right.
me.
And I think Robert Pattinson as Batman really landed for me in this movie.
He was
I
great.
thought he was great.
Oh,
So,
absolutely.
a lot of
Mhm.
people's concerns about like the Batman and his stature specifically, Robert Pattinson, because it was a whole thing. Robert Pattinson said he's like, I'm not going to the gym. I'm not bulking up for this movie. Did you feel like he was a little scrawny?
I mean, I feel like it was a perfect, no, because, there is that shirt scene. We see it in the trailer. He takes it off and he's kind of the perfect shape for this younger, thinner, more Batman, because we've seen, like Ben Affleck, how he can bulk up, and that's another iteration of the character. This version, that skinnier, leaner type is the type of Batman that's, in the comics in that version. So I think it fits for the story. Every piece, when it comes to the character and how Robert Pattinson has done it, matches with his version of Batman.
There's a lot of physicality to
Hmm.
everybody's
Yeah.
roles in this. Like obviously, it is
Right.
an action film in some
Hmm.
pieces, you know
Mhm.
what I mean? But I never felt like Robert Pattinson was like, "Oh, it's just some like skinny
No,
little
yeah.
Batman dude."
Right. He never
Never.
feels out of place.
Yeah.
No, he is a looming force. Even though he's brand new to being
Yeah,
Batman,
yeah.
I would be
I'm
scared of him.
vengeance.
Mhm.
Vengeance. Yeah, the whole
Yeah,
thing.
absolutely. I wanted
Yeah.
to quote Matt Reeves talks about this film has ego in kind of Batman's character and Matt Reeves.
Mhm.
And as you're talking about his
Mm.
arc, and it goes into who he is and what the suit means, right? So we're gonna see a lot of
Right.
that, and that's what I really appreciate. He also says that they quoted the Long Halloween comic book. So the Long Halloween is kind of like where Batman, it's his
Mhm.
earlier years, of course, like we know this is year 2, but it's like a
Yep.
rogues gallery. We're seeing a couple villains, here and there, and it's kind of a detective mystery like Zodiac, where he's going on, and it's emphasizing on his detective work, because I don't think we have seen that much of a Batman using his detective skills to this extent, and we finally get that. This is a full-on Batman story solving a crime throughout the night, and you're with them on this long journey, but it's more of a Batman centered story than it is Bruce Wayne, I think. I don't know if you'll
Right.
disagree with that, but
No, totally. I agree. And like even to add on to that, I feel like this is Batman first and then
Mhm.
abilities and gadgets second,
True. Wow.
Right.
Yeah.
which is really
I
important too.
agree.
Like they always added to it and
Mhm.
never took away from it, and it wasn't the focus. It was
I
the
agree.
Mm.
gadgets weren't always the focus, even
Yeah.
though the Batmobile is incredible and
It's
the
a
scenes
character on
that
its own. It's a
it
character.
totally is.
Yeah.
But like I wasn't waiting for that moment to happen
Mhm.
or anything. It just
Right.
happened and I was like, "Oh, this was awesome." Like I was
Yeah. Yeah.
stoked
True.
as it
Yeah.
was happening.
Yes.
But it didn't like take away from everything
Or
else that was happening in
distract
the movie.
from anything else that's happening in the movie.
Yes.
Another thing, like writer, I think you briefly wrote this down in your notes, but I don't know
Mhm.
if it's still there anymore. Oh, you did. It said it's Arkham games at its finest.
Yeah.
And I really agree with that. Like watching this movie feels like you're in an Arkham game.
Even especially Arkham Knight, when you can literally pick who are you going today, Harvey Dent, Two-Face, Firefly, Scarecrow, which one are you going after. This movie does switch around a lot with several villains, and it's like, oh, just when you think, okay, the story's
Mhm.
wrapping up, no, it's a switch, and
It's
he's just
actually opening up to
multiple
another whole
cases, and
nother
he's going,
thing going
yeah, yeah,
on.
and
Yeah.
it's a whole journey, and that's Arkham Knight, baby. It's
Yeah,
not any
this
Arkham game.
movie opens up in ways that I never thought like it would have. Like
Mhm.
this movie has a lot of scale to it.
Speaking more of the Arkham Knight type vibe, I would say that this movie is dark. And I know the
Yeah.
trailers made it seem dark and everything too, but really watching it, this movie is one of those movies. It doesn't happen very often, but when I can sit back and I just let it like wash, it just washes over you. It's
Yep.
the music, it's the score, it's the ambiance itself, like everything about it is just like, bring it, just give me more, let it come.
Mhm.
The tone, even the eeriness of the first scene is just,
Oh,
it
yeah.
brings you right in the movie, and it hooks you in right there.
And you both, I'm sure, can agree. Greg Fraser did cinematography, and he did, of course,
Yes.
Rogue one of my favorite cinematography films ever. And that paired with Michael Giacchino, the theme is never overdone, but I think that it's perfectly placed throughout the whole film. But that matched with the cinematography and the production design,
I mean,
it's something that you take in, because it's all, every little detail, so much attention has been put into it that everything needs to separate itself from the other Batman films.
Greg
There's
Fraser also
attention
did
put.
Dune too.
Yo,
He's
yeah.
fire
Whoa.
right now.
He is on fire.
Yeah.
Paul Dano as Riddler.
Yeah, we can get into characters. Yeah.
He's
talk to me about Paul
insane. I
Dano.
mean, in some ways, Paul Dano sort of is typecasted
Mhm.
in this type of role, right? As Riddler, kind of like scrawny man who's very like kind of like conniving but very cowardly in some ways. He always kind of like skitters away from at the very last second. And just like the dynamic with Batman and Paul like and the Riddler is so good.
Specifically, I'm not going to get into like the story of how Riddler goes
Mhm.
about doing whatever he's doing and all of that good stuff. But there was a part in this movie where I'm like, I look at Ryder and I look at James. I'm like, this is real. Like this could happen. Like this
Oh,
feels
yeah.
Oh yes, I know
scary
exactly what
real.
you're
Grounded.
talking
100%
about.
grounded.
And I
Some of
like,
the themes are very
yes,
familiar.
they're so relevant. And I don't want to say,
Yes.
oh, a superhero movie is relevant. Obviously, superhero movies are relevant because
Nobody's
that's
right.
how they're film. That's how they
Yeah.
build their themes in general.
Yeah.
But there's like pieces of this movie that I'm like, this is scary. How real this could be.
Yes.
It's like it's great. It's great. It's very well
Yeah.
written.
Yeah, and I think that's
It's
gonna
very well written.
we're gonna see the reactions from this film, as it's going on. More and more people are gonna start diving into the ethos of Batman's choices and the Riddler's choices and everything, and feel this film is gonna make more of an impact because of how much it relates to somewhat our culture and somewhat how our history, and how relatable and grounded it is in our reality,
Yeah.
that you can pull from. And I think that's what's gonna make a real impact on
And
us.
I think what's going to be really interesting is when the movie releases and it goes widespread, and what kind of discourse that's going to,
Absolutely. Mhm.
what ripples are going to go throughout culture and those motifs.
I mean, we're gonna get some specific. There's obviously gonna be. Okay. People are gonna like Robert Pattinson as Batman. People are gonna like it.
Yeah,
I think
I
that's
think
gonna
so
be
too.
pretty
It's
unanimous.
undeniable.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's gonna be a lot of things that people praise, but there are some aspects of this movie that I am not sure everybody is going to love. Things that I
Right.
loved, but
Mhm.
there might be certain people groups that get offended by some things, or certain plot points that people just disagree with in general about the characters. Yeah, that'll be interesting to see how that shakes out at the end.
There's some hot buttons.
There are some hot buttons that are pressed in this movie.
Yep.
There are some hot buttons that are pressed in this movie. I appreciated it. I felt good about it and the way they did it.
It
But
felt
that's
bold,
also
and that's
me.
that's what I
Right.
need.
Yes,
Andy
so-
Serkis as Alfred, also
Serkis.
great.
I mean, that's what I love about, just like with Batman and all the actors that played him, any actor that takes on Alfred has, a duty to kind of do their own take on it, but make him be kind of a choice. Are you going to be the father figure? Are you going to be the voice of reason? Or how are you going to go about it? And I think Andy Serkis definitely does a good job at being like, hey, I'm not your father, but I'm also here like trying my best to take care of you, because you're young and you need this guidance. And I think that was such a cool dynamic to see a younger version, even though we've kind of seen it with Christian Bale, but something about it felt more like naive about it, where Bruce Wayne is going about this, and it's like it's like the Arkham Origins video game. You're trying to kill yourself, and you have this anger, because of your origin. But Alfred is there to kind of say, okay, I'm gonna help you, but I'm gonna be your moral compass a little bit,
Yeah.
like he always is.
Another thing I want to bring up too is Catwoman.
Yeah,
We gotta
Selena
talk about
Kyle.
Catwoman. a
Zoe
little bit.
Kravitz.
She is really great in this movie, I thought too. There's a couple scenes that have not been shown in the trailers that were some highlight scenes for me of the whole movie,
Yes.
that have a lot of there's a lot of detective work, right? We've talked about that.
Yes. Mhm.
And that's public knowledge, right? But the detective work that Selena Kyle and Batman do in this film are that's the chemistry between
Very
the two.
cool. I have no strong feelings towards Commissioner Gordon.
I thought Jeffrey Wright was good. I thought he was
I
good.
mean, I thought he was good, but I wasn't like blown out of the water.
Yeah.
Maybe because like early Batman is not super focused on the relationship between Batman and Commissioner Gordon yet. Like they
It's a
know
little
each other.
wishy-washy a little bit.
It's a little wishy-washy.
There's just so much I wish I could say right now, but there's a specific scene in this damn movie, and it's one
I
of the
know which
best
one you're
Batman
talking
scenes
about.
ever.
I know exactly what
Ever.
you're talking about.
Okay, can't wait to see this movie again. Holy cow!
Let's talk
Good
about.
Lord.
Do you all want to talk about kind of the city and the vibes of like how Matt Reeves has crafted kind of the environment?
It's
ahead.
very tough for you to think about Gotham City and not immediately compare it to another city that you've experienced or you've seen. But I feel like he
Yeah.
did a good job showing parts of Gotham, right? I
Mhm.
mean, Gotham's a fake city.
Yeah.
Okay. He shows parts of Gotham that make it seem very believable, but at the same time, not exactly what I would expect like a New York to be or Chicago to be
Yeah.
or whatever they're trying to like
Mhm.
imitate the most
It's
with
its
Gotham.
own. Yeah, it's its own
It is its
reality for
own
sure.
thing. It feels real. It feels pretty real.
Mhm.
You're like, wow,
Yeah.
okay, I am in Gotham City. I'm visiting Gotham City with this movie, and he did a great job with that.
Mhm.
Robert Pattinson is a great Batman, a flawed Batman. Like flawed as in a flawed character, not a flawed performance. It's a great performance that he gives.
Mhm.
I hope this is not the last time we see Robert Pattinson's Batman.
I hope not.
I
Give us a
I
trilogy.
I'm ready for more.
Mhm.
I cannot stop thinking about this movie. Like it
Mhm.
comes into my head a lot. And it's
Mhm.
not just because of the advertising that I see literally everywhere for this movie. I think about the score a lot. I think about certain scenes a lot,
Mhm.
which is like exactly what I want. I really
Mhm.
want that. There's a lot of these films that are come and go for me. And this does not feel like it's a come and go type movie. It's a
No.
big movie, but it has a big staying impact as well.
Absolutely. And if you're worried about the advertisement, whether or not you've seen the trailers or not, one thing you can know is that, the trailers keep a lot secret, which is really great, having seen it now, knowing that the advertising was really good about this film.
Yeah, and if people are watching this on embargo day, they probably don't care as much,
Yeah, I
right?
know.
Like they're probably watching the trailers, but there are some things that have been in the recent trailers that I wish you could experience for the first time.
Yeah, save yourself
without
from
seeing
it. Thinking about Robert Pattinson as a Batman, doing a character has been done so many times before. He makes his mark as his own version. It's different than Christian and Ben Affleck and George Clooney and all the rest, right? And I think that this world, Matt Reeves has definitely put so much attention to every detail. Like I said, cinematography, score, production design, character, even the suit. The suit is like one of my favorite Batman suits of all time. And I think
It's a great
that
suit.
by putting so much attention to detail, it really separates itself from the rest. And I think this film stands on its own, not just as a comic book film, not just as a Batman film, but as a film. It really has its own. And I think that people are going to be talking about this a lot. And Robert Pattinson is going to be really recognized as the Batman, the Batman
The Batman.
for a
Yeah.
long time to come. Yeah.
And I'm going to finish out by saying what I said at the beginning of this review is that if this is an indicator of where the future of Batman goes for our Robert Pattinson, for where like if this does become a trilogy, I'm excited for that. And that's what matters most is I want more. Like this is so satisfactory and like Vince said, it makes a huge impact. I'm also ready for more. Like I want to see what Robert Pattinson
Robert Pattinson.
Robert
bring next.
Pattinson.
Robert Pattinson.
Thank you guys so much for watching our Batman spoiler-free review, but stay tuned because in a couple days we're going to have our spoiler review up right here on the channel. We appreciate you guys watching, and please have fun watching the Batman. Let us know what you think.